Hello everybody, in this lesson I will discuss typical exam questions on functions. Example 1. Sketched below are the graphs of g of x is equal to k to the x, where k is greater than 0 and y is equal to the inverse of g. 2. 36 is a point on g. Number 1, determine the value of k. Now let's quickly go back to the graph. The brown graph is the graph, the exponential function g of x, and the green one is the inverse, g negative 1x. And then they say that there's a point on g, the point 2, 36. Now, unfortunately, there's not enough space here, but it will be up there somewhere. You will find the point 2, 36 living on the graph. Now, to find the value of k, we need a point that lives on that graph, and the only point we've got is the point 2, 36 that consists of an x and a y. Therefore, in y's place we substitute 36 and in x's place we substitute 2. And now we solve k. 36 is the same as 6 squared, and to get rid of the k squared I will say divide by 2 on the exponent, divide by 2. Therefore, k's value is 6. 2. Give the equation of the inverse in the form y is equal to. Now we know now that g was y is equal to 6 to the x because k's value was 6. And then inverse is the swapping of x and y coordinate. Therefore, x is equal to 6y. And then we can write that one in logarithmic form by saying y is log 6x. Number 3. For which values of x is the inverse smaller equal to 0? Now, what the answer there is x is smaller equal than 1 and x is greater than 0. So this means, let me show you, on the inverse, y smaller equals 0. And can you see it's happening from there onwards? The y's are negative, smaller equals 0. And then for which values of x? So it's happening there up to there. So it's from 1 on the x up to 0. And remember, we cannot include 0 since there at 0 we find the asymptote. Example 2. Given p of x is equal to negative 3x squared, that's a parabola. Determine the equation of the inverse of p, stating its domain and range. So we start with p of x is equal to negative 3x squared, and in the place of p of x we write y. Then inverse is the swapping of the x and y coordinate, therefore x is equal to negative 3y squared. Then I divide it right through by negative 3 to make y squared the subject of the formula. Then I only swapped those two because I like my y squared on the left hand side. And now to get rid of the square, I take the square root both sides. And remember, when you take the square root, that's plus minus. So therefore the equation of the inverse is y is equal to plus minus root x over negative 3. And then I made the sketch for you there. The pink graph is the original function p of x, and then the blue one is the inverse. They didn't ask for it here, but I did it for you because I want to show you how I got to the domain and the range. Now the domain is x is smaller or equal to 0. Remember, I'm giving you the domain of the inverse, so you can see it's all the x's going that way. And then the range, reading it from the bottom, is range element y element real. In the next lesson, I will discuss more exam type questions. Click on the video in the left-hand corner to take you straight to the next lesson.